Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because honestly, we're embarking on a truly fascinating journey. We are going to explore the deep ocean of institutional design. Now, we're looking at some cutting-edge research and totally new models that are fundamentally rethinking how we coordinate, build, and govern. Basically, you can forget everything you know about traditional corporate structures. Today, we're talking about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, not just as static software, but as actual living systems. So I want you to start by asking yourself a pretty radical question. What if a company was alive? Think about it. What if, instead of just being a static piece of paper stuffed in some filing cabinet, an organization was a living, breathing entity, one that's capable of sensing its environment, adapting to shocks, and actually evolving over time? I know, it sounds a bit like science fiction, right? But as you'll see in the source material today, this is exactly the paradigm shift underway right now in Web3. We are literally challenging the fundamental assumptions about what an organization can even be. Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, most of the world runs on what we'd call mechanistic governance. Picture your traditional industrial factory model. It's rigid, it maximizes static efficiency, and because it's so rigid, it's incredibly brittle. When an unexpected shock hits, bam, these structures tend to just break. On the flip side, we have living governance. This is inspired by biology and ecosystems. You see, living systems don't strive for perfect top-down control. Instead, they maintain a dynamic balance. They're adaptive, they're resilient, and they actually metabolize information to survive when conditions change. So here is our expedition log for today's explainer. Think of it as our map for discovering new life forms on this dive. First, we'll look at the brittle surface. Second, diving deep. Third, the cybernetic exoskeleton. Fourth, the marine taxonomy. And finally, ecosystems, not factories. Let's get moving. Stop number 1 on our dive, the brittle surface. Beyond code is law. Let's start right at the surface. For a long time in the blockchain space, the prevailing mantra was always code is law. But when you look at the sheer volume of risks out there, everything from governance apathy and Sybil attacks to massive operational coordination failures and legal uncertainties, it's overwhelming. Web3 is essentially a mass of live cultures, right? It's an incredible experiment in human coordination. But code is law absolutism optimizes for static efficiency, which makes these organizations incredibly fragile when they face real-world messy complexities. Slapping traditional legal wrappers, like just throwing a standard LLC onto a complex decentralized network, completely fails to contain these novel risks. When the unexpected happens, those brittle structures just shatter. And that brings us to the core thesis of the research we're unpacking today. It's the realization that organizations are not machines. They shouldn't be designed like rigid clockwork. Instead, if they want to survive the absolute volatility of the modern digital landscape, they have to be designed as open, adaptive biological systems. We need to completely reject the simplistic legal wrappers of the past. It's time to evolve. Which takes us to Section 2, Diving Deep, the Birth of Legal Animals. Let's check out the laboratory where these new life forms are being engineered. Just take a second and absorb this quote from the source material. Law is a technology enabling human collaboration. Legal entities are containers, and legal structures could be better designed, learning from nature to evolve into true multicellular organisms. This is a massive, profound philosophical shift. We're moving away from old corporate mechanics and fully embracing biological design patterns to create truly regenerative projects. The entity really pioneering this whole approach is the DAO345 Foundation. Based in the Cayman Islands, it acts as this experimental institutional laboratory. But here's the catch. It doesn't operate like a traditional tech startup. It functions as a mothership. It's a stable, non-extractive anchor, essentially an independent legal habitat. It hosts research, curates grants, and provides a safe harbor for a whole fleet of dynamically deployed sub-DAOs. They are literally out there prototyping new legal organizational species for a post-industrial world. All right, moving deeper into Section 3, the cybernetic exoskeleton, the anatomy. Let's dissect these legal animals and see how they actually function. And this brilliantly illustrates how it all comes together. In a living DAO, reserved matters act as a vault of locked protocols to protect the core mission. But the technological stack, the blockchain, the smart contracts, embedded AI agents, that acts as a kinetic, responsive exoskeleton. The researchers actually compare it to a strand beast. You know those incredible wind-powered kinetic structures that walk on the beach? By embedding AI agents into the framework, the smart contracts act like a literal immune system. They automate governance, they enforce compliance across different jurisdictions, and they allow the organization to metabolize information and adapt to external stimuli in real time, all while fiercely protecting its core mission. To make this exoskeleton work, the researchers developed a framework called the Minimal Viable DAO Architecture, or MVDA, and it breaks down into 3 very digestible steps. First up, the DAO membrane. This is a programmable boundary layer that stabilizes the DAO's identity while still allowing it to interact fluidly with the outside world. Second, multicellular architecture. The organization operates as a network of semi-autonomous but deeply interdependent units. This gives it incredible scalability and resilience. And third, proof of value. This is a new governance system designed to recognize and reward multiple dimensions of human contribution, not just financial capital. Together, these 3 steps allow the organization to maintain that dynamic balance we talked about and keep evolving. Okay, section 4, the marine taxonomy, the species. Let's look at what's actually being tested in this lab. Now, this isn't just some playful metaphor. Seeing these diverse species coordinate within a deep ocean ecosystem is honestly awe-inspiring. Just as the actual ocean demands completely different evolutionary adaptations to survive depending on where you are, the highly volatile landscape of Web3 requires highly specialized organizational forms. So let's take a look at the specific archetypes they've identified in the wild. The DAO species framework gives us these distinct, highly evolved configurations for organizational resilience. First, you have the fish school DAO. This one is optimized for hyperagility, rapid consensus, and fluid role rotation based on real-time data. Then there's the starfish DAO, which is built for extreme leaderless decentralization and organic self-replication. Need something a bit more structured? Well, the octopus DAO utilizes a hybrid intelligence model, so it's got a centralized vision core that coordinates semi-autonomous specialized arms. And finally, for precise mission-critical execution, you deploy a shark DAO. It's localized, high efficiency, and totally streamlined. These aren't just cute labels. They are precise engineering choices, tailored for very specific operational environments. Finally, we arrive at section 5, ecosystems, not factories, the takeaway. Let's zoom out to the big picture. Let's look at the long-term civilizational arc here. What is the ultimate goal of this entire deep-sea expedition? Where is all this leading us? Well, it leads to a really stark contrast between our past and our future. The old model is the industrial factory, right? It's static, highly hierarchical, and ultimately it's extractive. But the new model, the absolute pinnacle of this biological design, is the coral reef DAO. Think about a coral reef. It's regenerative, it's symbiotic, and it's deeply interdependent. Diverse organisms share nutrient pipelines to thrive in environments where resources are constrained. This model represents the actual future of planetary stewardship. It avoids the absolute paralysis of overcentralization and the chaos of uncoordinated drift. It prioritizes long-term ecosystem health over short-term speculative hype. So, the crucial point is captured perfectly in this final thought from the source materials. The future institution will not resemble a factory. It will resemble an ecosystem. We are literally moving toward a world of programmable legal ecologies, where institutions are adaptive, they are AI-aware, and fundamentally, they are human-centered. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. The digital blue ocean is vast, and the environment out there is changing rapidly. The brittle, mechanistic structures of the past, they simply won't survive the pressures of tomorrow. So I want you to look at the projects you're building, the communities you're a part of, and ask yourself, how will your organization evolve to survive the deep ocean of the future? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Keep learning, keep evolving, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.